It's the NASRA Triple M Pulling Truck Series playoffs as we continue. Last week saw battles at Michigan, but this week we see a whole different animal. We go road course racing here from Circuit of the Americas in beautiful Austin, Texas, and we're so happy that you can be joining us this evening on Racecraft TV. My name is Ian Fisher. Alongside me in the booth is Terry Radford. In the production truck, we have Zach Johnson giving you all the shots and graphics you're going to see here tonight on Racecraft TV. And Terry, as you look at this track right now on screen, you can see it right there. The elevation is such a factor here when we come to COTA. But what else can these drivers look for around this very tight and technical road course we have here in Austin, Texas?
Well, you got 20 turns ahead of you, so you have plenty of road to make passes. There's so many passing lanes on this track. Turn one's going to be a major player on restarts. We talked about the stages. It's going to be a big key in kind of getting track position. Right here, we're looking at the S's coming up down the first sector of this track. You're going to see a lot of people do the runoff here. There's going to be people getting pushed off the left and the right of this track. It should be entertaining, to say the least.
Oh, entertaining is definitely going to be what we're looking for tonight, but it's also going to be very difficult for these drivers to keep it on track throughout the evening. Of course, we're going to have the stage cautions, Terry, and you and I were talking about this a little bit before our broadcast, but you do have the stage cautions, but no full course yellows. I think for the most part, we're going to see tonight anything like local yellows. So really, these drivers got to be on their A game, and you can't make any mistakes here. You'll find yourself at the back of the field very quickly.
Yeah, and it all starts with qualifying, right? So you look right now with Ted Wade, he's sitting on the provisional pole at the moment. You have to get a good starting position. You cannot start anywhere outside the top, I would say the top six, because once you're outside that top six, you kind of get caught up in a big of a checkup going into turn one, and then you set yourself up for failure when you come off of one, start going through the S's and the snake part of the track. There's a lot that's going to factor into this, and they're starting to grid. So luckily most of these guys understood that, hey, you had to be fast from the start.
Well, and you kind of mentioned it as well, Terry, how much of this track really sets up the next part of the track. You even from that first corner going all the way up the hill and the hard left-hander and then into the S's, as you mentioned it, each part of this course feeds into the other. So if you miss one thing, it's really hard to get your momentum back in any kind of lap whatsoever. And you see how tight of the apex we have here. And I believe that's turn number 7. Correct me if I'm wrong, but it's just so difficult for these drivers to get slowed down, really make the apex of these corners, and then get an efficient drive off, especially with all the horsepower that they have in these trucks.
Well, I mean, yeah, you talked about turn 7 right there. That's honestly going to be one of the slowest parts of this racetrack. You're going to have to woe it down a whole lot. If you're side by side, you have to single file yourself out real quick. There's just so much to do here in 20 turns.
And we take a look at your starting grid for the evening so far. You mentioned it. Ted Wade is going to be your front runner here today. He sits on the Pulse Poppers pole with a time of 2:19.558 to the outside. You'll have Brian Abbott in the 82. On row number 2, you're going to have Keith Haney to the inside and Tyler Dittmer to the outside. Both race winners here on the season. They'll be looking for more. Keith Bradley in the 29 and Brady LaBeouf, a former champion in this league, will make up row number 3. Row number 4 finds Jason Morales and Derek Kilgore in the 11th machine, looking to break through and get his first win here in NASRA competition. Michael McKinnon and Kyle Hess will round out row number 5 and your top 10, Terry.
You look like there it's Stephen Thomas in the 11th position with Taylor Peacock in 12th. 13th is going to go over there to Huck Wigington, and Dana Shepard rounds out 14th. Top 15 has Raul Meza, and Chris Cinnamon did not lay a time down. We'll start getting in drivers that didn't put any down. Justin Lumpkin, Joey Doucette. Go back here to the 20th place position. You'll have TJ Moore and Robert Richards.
And the rest of your field is going to be made up of Devin Painter, Adam Newbert, all these drivers that from here on back have not put in a lap time in qualifying. Cody Knott, Zach Hartwick, Jacob Klinkert, Brandon Bullock, and then Blake Lothian and Jose Luis Rivera will make up your 28 truck field here this evening from Circuit of the Americas in Austin, Texas. And Terry, this is going to be a long pace lap for these drivers all the way around to the start finish line, even though they have the abridged pace lap here, it seems to be. But what can we expect diving into turn 1?
I kind of hope it's calamity, but I hope it's not as well. You could see somebody want to fan out here as you look at the race analysis. 40 laps, stage 1 at lap 10, stage 2 at lap 20. So it'll be 20 laps to the end of this race with 75% fuel. We'll see some strategy come into play. People probably kind of come down about around lap 8 if you're in the first part, or 7 going to 8 before they shut pit road down. But turn 1's going to be wide. It should be 3 wide before we get there. Somebody might get pushed off the racetrack or just miss the break altogether.
Well, that's always my favorite part of turn 1. Like here, places like Phoenix come to mind, Pocono as well. Just the 4, 5 wide you see going into the first corner, and we'll definitely see it here for all evening long at Circuit of the Americas as the pace truck will dive onto pit road here. We have 1 more quarter to go before we get to the flag stand here. Barney the flag man will have the green flag in hand here, and he'll have the field under his control. I don't know if we're going for another pace lap here or what is happening. There we go. Now the green flag is waving here from Circuit of the Americas in virtual Austin, Texas. Jostling for position throughout the entire pack. Ted Wade out to an early lead here. He's under chase from Byron Abbott and Tyler Dittmer. Dittmer going to get the position here going into the S's. We mentioned how critical this part of the track is going to be all night long. This is these drivers' first chance in race pace to get through it, and look at just the entire field snake through this section of racetrack, Terry. Really fun to watch.
Yeah, and you have to watch the driver going around back there in the back. Who is that there? I believe that would be Kyle Hess as one around here. The off-track portions of this racetrack, if you put all 4 tires outside of the rumble strips there, you'll get an off-track, and you can build up enough to get a penalty. So it's going to take a minute to get a whole lap completed around here, but so far been pretty clean.
And that's something to keep in mind as well as we go further and further into road course racing here, as Circuit of the Americas is one of the more strict racetracks when it comes to track limits, as we have another truck around. I believe that is the 48 of Robert Richards there. He'll get it righted there and keep going, but find himself at the back of the pack. But another thing to keep in mind as well in road course racing like this, Terry, is that, and you kind of touched on it earlier in the broadcast, is a short pitting is really going to be advantageous here. So I'm excited to see when we get to our first stage break if anybody's going to take that strategy and try to pit a few laps early.
Well, you would imagine that you have to have a certain discipline as well. You have to be about 11 seconds is kind of where you want to sit yourself to potentially jump on pit lane before the race leader actually touches the start-finish line to close pit lane with 2 to go. You might maybe get somebody pit with 3 to go in the stage to kind of throw it out there. Maybe the lap coming to lap 7 before we get to lap 8 before they shut it all down for us. But it's going to be interesting to see what driver tries to make the strategy play work for them. So far, you got to go all the way back to 10th. Like 1st through 10th is the only ones that can make the jump, because Newbert back there in 11th, he's already 11 seconds back.
And as you're looking at your timing tower on the left-hand side there, all your drivers in gold are your playoff drivers. Remember, we have 1 more race after this one in our first round of playoffs before we make our first round of cuts to these drivers. And so far, one driver that doesn't have to worry about that either in this race or in the point standing in general is that 2 truck of Ted Wade out to a commanding lead so far. It started at 1.5 seconds at the beginning of the lap, now almost up to 2 seconds here over Brian Abbott. But from there on back, it's a pretty competitive battle. You see on your screen right now, that's the 29 of Keith Bradley, and just making his way through the S's. A lot of these drivers, Terry, I think early in this run, especially in this first stage, are just looking to get a handle on the truck and really get comfortable at race pace. I think from there, stage 2, and then towards the end of this race is where we're going to see drivers get a lot more aggressive, obviously.
Yeah, you have to, this is a rhythm track, so by the time you actually build a couple laps in, you start going more and more. As you see the 43 right there actually made contact, Blake Lothian, trying to get around here, but you've got to build a ton of rhythm around this racetrack. And I think I would be scared if I was the competition at the fact that the very first lap that Ted Wade laid down on this racetrack was a 1:19.6. He was 2 seconds faster than the rest of this field, and he was the only one in qualifying to throw a 19 down. Everybody else was in the 20s, about a second back behind him. It's You give that, I think, you give that guy no worries in the world and a very fast truck at a track that he's comfortable in. This might be a runaway show.
Well, and of course, it's really been a runaway show all season long for Ted Wade here in the NASRA Triple M Pulling Truck Series. Of course, the last time we were at a road course, as we have a little bit of a spin in the back here. One truck on its side, in fact. I believe that's the 13 of Michael McKinnon there as he's following through the order. He'll now reset to pit lane. And you see him there now. I wonder what happened that got him on his side like that. You definitely don't see trucks flipping over on a road course very often, Terry.
No, that's entertaining because that was actually a slower part of the racetrack too. You go through that right-hander there or left-hander, and we'll take a look here. What happened in the replay? But he's going to get on the brakes, go to turn, gets plowed in the back by I believe that's the 15, and then he goes back across and just gets tagged, and then that just flipped the truck. That's an odd place to flip.
Yeah, and then you also have the truck there just deciding it's going to take a nap there on its side, but that is very interesting. Obviously, a little bit of help from another competitor who I don't think was trying to flip Michael McKinnon up on his side there. It's just kind of happened to work out that way, but nonetheless, he finds himself on pit road looking for what I imagine would be a good minute of repairs, Terry. I originally thought what happened there was he caught one of the turtle curbs and went up and over that way.
I mean, that's an option too, but that was clearly the weirdest thing that I've seen so far. I called a race at COTA a couple weeks ago, and I didn't see anybody flip. I'm surprised to see the trucks actually do it, but yeah, I mean, we talked about before we went on the air and before we went live is we thought this race would spread out. Well, here it is. It has spread out.
I'm kind of looking through the field here to see what drivers are kind of in a close battle. It looks like for a battle for about, I think, no, I was going to say about 15th, but right now it looks like you're looking at the 43 there, Lothian, who's being trailed by Kilgore. That's a pretty close battle right now. That's for about 9th through 11th position here. You'll see them as they come by our camera right now. And for Derek Kilgore, it's been kind of a story of too little, too late for most of his races. He seems to get up there towards the top 15 and then inevitably gets caught up in some kind of incident that's not really his fault. And it's been a frustrating season for him so far. I will say good run so far in the top 10. Had a really good qualifying effort in this first stage here. Just trying to look to hang on to that top 10, and stage points really isn't important to the 11th camp at this point in the season. They're really looking for a win, so it might be one of those drivers, Terry, that go off strategy here with the first pit stop.
Yeah, and this is a racetrack right here where you kind of control your own destiny, but you could, happen what happened back there for Michael McKinnon, where he goes around, gets flipped. His destiny was controlled by somebody else in physics, kind of to play on his half. But you have an opportunity for some of these drivers who are not in the yellow banner here, going for a truck championship, to maybe play something different, to maybe short pit this stage, come out, hope that other people don't pit, and you take advantage of it and flip the restart and come out here. You're not going to take tires on the first pit stop, I don't assume. These tires get better as we go. As you take a look at the 29 here, Bradley, they were going at it, and there's a driver around again.
It looks to be the 20 of Jose Luis Rivera. He'll get righted over there in the Whataburger section of the racetrack. Terry, I don't know if you've ever spent any time in Texas or ever been around Whataburger.
I love it.
Oh, it's so good, isn't it?
Oh, it's so good.
Yeah. If anybody out there can get Whataburger after the race, during the race, I highly encourage you to do that. They're not sponsoring us or anything like that. I just want to live vicariously through you. If you're enjoying Whataburger while you're checking out the NASRA Triple M Pulling Truck Series on Racecraft TV. I have Culver's up here in Michigan, which is pretty good, but it's not quite the same. Anyways, back to racing action, not fast food discussion here. A move to the inside by the 43 of Lothian here. He'll take the spot away from Cinnamon. Cinnamon looked for the crossover there, but I think he's just going to file in here and continue to tick away. Lap 4 of 40 here, lap 4 of 10 of our first stage, Terry.
Well, you talk about Whataburger. That was my third job ever when I moved to Bama. Good little spot to work at. I think I still have my work shirt somewhere from them. But the patty melt or the barbecue bacon cheddar burger. That's where we draw the line of greatness.
So here, You'd probably be annoyed by my order because it was a number 2 plain and dry, and then I would add cheese and bacon.
You order just like me. Yeah, you order just like I do. No onions, no pickle, no nothing. I just want it with ketchup and mustard. Call it a day. Put some bacon on it. But I can't go to Bama anymore without going to Whataburger, regardless what I'm there for. When they opened up in Alabaster, I was a big fan. And all these In-N-Out people that tell me that place is so great, it's overpriced for a small burger. It's good, but I mean, I can go get filled up on half a burger at Whataburger for half the price at least.
I will say that's where we might get into an argument. So we're gonna agree to disagree on the In-N-Out discourse for the sake of all of our viewers. But after we get off the air, Terry, you and I have to talk about some things. One driver that doesn't have to really worry about talking about anything with his team or maybe his own mental game here while he's on the racetrack is Ted Wade. Bradley there, his teammate, did make the pass on Dittmer. While we were discussing fast food. He does catch the rumble strip there, and I think that will definitely be a slowdown for the 29 here. I'm not sure if he's going to get black flagged, but that is definitely going to allow Dittmer to get to his back bumper. And I was going to say, just before that, Bradley was running some pretty good lap times, pretty equal to Ted Wade. It wasn't going to catch him, but was definitely putting some room on the 34 truck, but that bobble will give it right back, Terry.
It's funny that we read each other's mind because I looked up the moment we flipped over to Bradley and was like, "Wow, that's a pretty good lap time with the 220.7." Thought that was a really hot lap to throw down. He was a tenth faster than his teammate Ted Wade. And granted, yeah, you're not seeing the delta come down, but this track's all about consistency. It's all about running, equal lap times from the first lap to the 10th lap, and you have to put yourself in that box of, I can charge for 10 laps, I can be aggressive as possible, have a lot of fun doing it. So I'm surprised that Bradley didn't get a slowdown there, or maybe Tyler Dittmer was just like being, a little bit more friendly and not passing him, because he jumped the whole curb, like the entire curb. He just ate it.
Yeah, maybe our track stewards thought the slowdown from the curb was sufficient a punishment. So for now, Bradley will hang on to the position there. You see them using the outside in that green section there. You're allowed to dip your tires in the green sections. The red sections, not so much. And at one point I was going to get to earlier before we had a truck spinning, Terry, was that there is an incident limit we have here tonight for our race. And I believe it's going to be, let's see here, you get a DQ at 20 incident points. And I will say this is one of the easier tracks to drop a tire off into a non-racing surface and pick up a 1X for, leaving the track surface. So something to keep in mind, especially later in this race, those X's will start to add up here with our drivers. Could be something that actually factors into our race later on.
Well, I mean, all of our X's live in Texas. See,
gosh.
Yeah, I like it, little George Strait. We're in Texas. You gotta think outside the box. But I had the argument with somebody before. I think it's a bit of a cat and mouse game. I don't see why you can't dip the tires off here. There's a lot of runoff. There's a lot of pavement that's outside of this. Now the grass I understand, but I don't understand not being able to go over the curbs just a little bit and ride them off the exit. I mean, you have so much runoff space right there. Why we punish people for going out there and pushing as hard as possible to make something is beyond me, but it never made any sense. That's why I don't road race very often, because I want to use every bit of the pavement, and I can't. But is that too set on pit road?
Yeah, I was just going to say, like you were talking about, Terry, we see Joey Doucette here pull on to pit road, and you'll see the jack go up there. It's going to be at least a 2-tire stop. If he's taking 2, you got to imagine he's taking 4. There's no reason to just take 2 tires here on a road course, but he is the first driver we've seen, and a playoff driver as well, make that dive to pit road, maybe looking for a win to lock him into the next round of the playoffs.
It is a smart strategy. Come down lap 6. You don't have to worry about the pits closing. Not necessarily sure if he's going to jump a whole lot of people, but I mean, he'll put a couple laps down on the tires. I wouldn't go full pace. You're not going to lose a lap here. This place is way too big for that. I mean, it's a 2-minute lap time. He was only on pit road for 42 seconds, and that was all there. Oh no, there's the 29 of Bradley. He's more issues where Tyler Dittmer actually gets around him there.
Yeah, more issues for drivers, I think, is going to be a theme throughout the night. And you mentioned the the run. Oh, we have one more incident here back here. It looks like one of the Upfront Motorsports machine. I'm not quite entirely sure who that is. Never mind, that is the 6. That's Jason Morales, and he'll hang on to it there, but definitely having problems. Devin Painter in the 99, you see they're able to easily make the move around him. That's going to be for 15th position. Right now, the driver of that 6 machine, Morales, he's hanging on.
Yeah, it's going to be a battle of attrition. 40 laps around here. You're going to have a lot, and I mean a lot of people going off track, having issues. Surprisingly enough, though, we only have about to be a 3-second gap up to the race lead. So not too big of a stretch outside of what we could have maybe a race for the win, potentially. But yeah, our producer, everybody's struggling. I don't think there's one person in particular that's not. I'm kind of curious what the track temp is here. Maybe that's causing a little bit of an issue when it comes to the brakes starting to fade a little bit, tires getting a little hot, and just pushing and sliding off this course.
Well, it's always warm in Austin, Texas. Being a former resident of Austin, I can tell you that. Although I will say they are being pretty heavily impacted right now by some storms, and really, frankly, everybody in the Texas area, East Texas up towards Texarkana, Arkansas, Oklahoma, everybody getting hit by some severe weather up there. So if you happen to be watching from any of those areas, I would say definitely keep in touch with your local weather service and keep an eye on the sky, even though it's dark over there right now. There's some pretty terrible weather in your area, and you do need to be aware of it. That's my little volunteer PSA for the National Weather Service there. But back to racing action. This appears to be a battle here for this is going to be the 43 of Lothian through about 6th and 7th position there. You saw Cinnamon, the move on Lothian a few laps ago that he made that. We do have a little bit of smoke up here in front of these trucks, so I'm wondering if a driver maybe locked it up or something like that. Don't seem to have anything going on here. This battle between Cinnamon and Lothian has been kind of a thing that's been going on since the drop of the green flag, Terry.
Yeah, they've been right on top of each other, but Lothian's up 21 positions. So, I mean, he's definitely been the biggest mover of the field. Didn't qualify, elected to not, just sit in the back a little bit, maybe hope for some early chaos with these drivers in front of him. But, I mean, he's driven through the field. He's made passing zones out of places you wouldn't expect for it to happen. He's been aggressive across the board, and he's pulling a little bit on Cinnamon, but not pulling too fast. Kind of just sitting here biding his time, and he's trying to catch Brian Abbott up there in the top 5.
And you can really see from the past couple of corners just how aggressive he's being with that 43 machine. The back end is stepping out on pretty much each and every corner, which it's good to drive aggressively, but you do want to save your tires. You do have a pit stop coming up here in 2 more laps, so maybe get all that you can. But really, unless you're able to get another position, if you're Blake Lothian, you've done pretty much all you can here. You mentioned it. He's gained 20 spots since the drop of the green flag. So a really good run here from the 43, only 8 laps into this race, and looking for that stage break at lap 10.
Yeah, I mean, that's impressive for a guy that started outside the top 20 to jump up and get stage points at the beginning or the first stage here. And once we reset this, we'll kind of see where he stacks up with the rest of the field. I'm not too sure if he's potentially going to go up there and pass Ted Wade. He's been faster than him on the long run. He has consistently put, 221s down, 222s. He's been just as consistent as ever. As that last time by, he actually put a 224 down. He kind of backed it up just a tad bit, made a couple mistakes throughout here, but we'll see. Maybe Tyler Dittmer's going to be a player. Short run wasn't his thing. He's actually closed that gap in a ton here. It's 1.5 now.
Yeah, the lead was up to about 2.5 seconds at one point for Ted Wade, but as you mentioned it now, it's down to about 1.5 seconds and 1.25 seconds there for Tyler Dittmer as he tries to make chase to Ted Wade there. And yeah, Ted Wade, I don't know if he's maybe just conserving, knowing he's going to get to the stage break here, or if there's starting to be a little bit of a handling fall off for that 2 machine. You see him on screen right now heading into a very tight handling section of this racetrack, and our producer, Zach Mitchell, had a very good point. It does seem like everybody is struggling with this truck. And remember, Ted Wade won back at Sonoma here, so he's no stranger to going to victory lane on a road course. But COTA is a whole different animal compared to Sonoma, Terry.
Yeah, it's a total different animal. And Sonoma gives you a chance to be it's kind of it's kind of fast, but it's still very technical. Here it's fast, technical, slow, even more technical. There's just so much to do in a lap around here that you could make a mistake when you don't even feel like you have. And a lot of drivers tell me all the time, but this is one of the racetracks that you have to be really slow, really cautious, and you'll get fast. Like you'll be more fast. As Blake Lothian, he actually looks like he's on pit lane here.
Again, one more driver pitting before the end of the stage. You see that there, the 43 of Blake Lothian. So he'll join the 16 machine of Joey Doucette as the two drivers right now that have pitted. But now that I look at the timing and scoring here, Terry, I don't think Joey Doucette actually got back on the racetrack. He's still on pit road right now, so I'm not entirely sure what happened there to the 16 camp. He finds himself on pit road as well as Zach Hartwick as well. There's 43 of Blake Lothian now exiting pit road, so he's the only driver that's flipped up the strategy so far, Terry. And we've seen that happen before. We saw the 99 Devin Painter stay out, use fuel strategy to his advantage at Pocono to pick up the win there. And we're only going to have one more lap to go in the stage when they come to the scoring tower this time by for Ted Wade. And Dittmer, that lead is kind of stabilized there about a second and a half, Terry.
Yeah, we'll see who flips the strategy. I mean, that was for Lothian. He didn't lose a whole lot. He was 17 seconds back. He went back to 16th, 46 seconds off. So he lost about 30 seconds of time, but it's all going to come back once they actually take the stage here. All these drivers, doing their best to keep it on the racetrack, keep it consistent, not run into each other. As you look here at the 29 of Keith Bradley, he's trying to hold off Haney and Abbott for this fourth place position. But all of these drivers have to be tired already.
Well, all these drivers, yeah, it's a very demanding racetrack. You're right, Terry. It's one that definitely works you for sure. You mentioned the 20 turns, and not only the turns, but how many shifts these drivers have to do. And every single one of those have to be perfect if you're going to end up in butt kicker victory lane here at the end of the evening. But another thing to keep in mind too is that there are going to be a certain amount of mistakes made by drivers, and if you can minimize your own mistakes and capitalize on some other mistakes, you're probably not going to drive a perfect race, but you don't have to be perfect necessarily. You just have to go out there and be the most consistent driver at the end of the night, and that's what the two of Ted Wade is doing right now. Another thing that stands out to me is you take a look at your timing and scoring tower. Of the top 10 on the racetrack right now, 9 of them are playoff drivers.
Kareem always rises to the top when it's playoff time, and you look back there at Justin Lumpkin in the 11th place position. He easily, I would think, could be sitting right there in front of Adam Newbert, but he kind of got caught up in a little bit of traffic, a little bit of extra stuff, sit him in the 11th place position. So there's a lot of racing that's going to come down here as I think we're getting ready to close the stage here when the top 10 crosses the line.
Yeah, right now, take a look at your top 10 drivers on the left-hand side of your timing tower. They're going to come to the stripe this time, battling for stage points and all-important playoff points for your playoff drivers. The only driver in your top 10 that's not a playoff driver right now is the 4 of Adam Newbert, but this is a battle right here with the 4 of Adam Newbert right now. He's holding on to that 10th position as we see right now. Given a little bit of pressure here to the 23 of Stephen Thomas, but I don't think we're going to see anything risky here coming to stage end.
Yeah, you don't want to do anything risky because then you could lose the spot to Lumpkin, who's right behind you. He's hounding you as well. Maybe he'll dive in here, and he does. And oh, that got squirrely real quick.
That was a very aggressive move, but it paid off, and it was a good part of the racetrack to do it. Going downhill, knowing you're going to get some of the pressure, really dove it in there on Stephen Thomas and was able to make it stick. So a great move there by the 4 of Adam Newbert.
That scared everybody. That probably scared Thomas too. He was like, man, what's this guy doing? I can't believe he would just sail it in there like that. But I mean, he wobbled it, got on the brakes, wobbled more, got on it, and made it stick.
And right now we have a little bit of a battle here for the lead coming to stage end. Taylor Dittmer is not going to make this easy on Ted Wade. He's going to have a perfect couple of turns here for Ted Wade if he's going to hang on to the stage when coming through the final corner. Now it'll be a pseudo drag race down to the finish, but Ted Wade is going to barely beat out Tyler Dittmer and take your stage 1 victory. Dittmer, Bradley, Haney, and Abbott will be your top 5 as the caution flag flies. Klinkard, Cinnamon, LaBeouf, Thomas, and Newbert round out your top 10. So those are all the drivers that are qualified for the playoffs, of course, that will get playoff points, Terry. Kind of what we expected so far in stage 1. Drivers just kind of figuring out where they're going to go, and that man right there, Ted Wade at the top of the field.
Well, I think we learned something there at the end of this stage. Is Ted Wade doesn't have the long run truck that he did in the short run. So that short run speed was a quick burst, was able to pull out to a gap. If you could keep him in that 2.5 range in the short run, I think you'll be able, if you're Tyler Dittmer, you'll be able to jump him there. But now we're going to see, okay, did Lothian have enough truck when he drove through the field to get up here and stay in this race lead? He should cycle out from 13th to 1st. You know, can these drivers just flip it, stay up here? How big is track position? We're going to find out here at the beginning of stage 2.
And I'm not entirely sure on the math number, Terry. I know it's a 75% fuel load for these drivers. Not exactly sure where our fuel window is. I'll try to find an answer for that for everybody watching at home. But I wonder if anybody is going to stay out, actually, and choose not to pit here in the first stage. I don't know if you can make it on fuel, so maybe everybody has to pit that hasn't pit yet. But you say, I think that Ted Wade would probably come down and get tires. But if you're somebody like Tyler Dittmer, do you maybe just come down for fuel and get tires next time around because you know you have a little bit better truck on the long run?
I mean, if you can, yeah, why not? I would imagine that everybody would come in and maybe just kind of see where it would go. If you had one driver already pit, you got to think that maybe there's some strategy to it that, well, we're not going to have to pit in stage 2 because, right, we're going to knock some laps off. Stage 2 is going to go to lap 20, so this is a shorter stage than lap 1. So for anybody trying to flip the track position, maybe stay out, maybe kind of short it a little bit, and not, if you don't pit this time, you pit in the middle of stage, either the end of stage 2 or the beginning of stage 3.
Yeah, and that's what I was kind of thinking of. Well, is just staying out now and then short pitting the next stage here, as you see Ted Wade coming around turn 1, gonna catch up here with our iRacing pace truck. And so far, your NASRA 360 Hard Charger Award, we already touched on it a little bit so far, is going to go to actually Jacob Klinkard here after a pit stop. So Jacob Klinkard right now is your NASRA 360 Hard Charger at the moment. Those are awards that we look for every single race. And as far as for the whole season, there's the Starbase Comics Rookie of the Year Award. And so far, that's actually going to be with the driver of the 00, Huck Wigington, in 22nd position as it stands right now. So first stage caution. Let's see if anybody comes up pit road this time around. I don't know if we have. And then after this, we're going to have, 10 more laps, I believe, Terry. I think we go to lap 20 for the second stage, and then a 20 lap endurance. I wouldn't say endurance race, but a 20 lap long stage to end this race out.
Yeah, stage 2 is going to be really short because we'll take the green flag potentially at the start of lap 14. So you're going to get a 6-lap sprint dash here. So if you're looking to potentially stay out here, you've got a lot of downhill that you're going to hit starting right here. That you can just turn that truck off and coast it, not worry about the fuel load, not worry about anything else. Just kind of sit back and play your cards close to the chest. And if you can make it 6 laps, go for it. The tires are still pretty decent. I mean, you're still turning, fairly okay laps around here. Maybe we see somebody do that and stay out. If we see more than enough, then it's going to make it even harder if Ted Wade comes down to come through the field.
Yeah, and that's, there's so many strategies that you can play out here through the rest of the evening. I mean, you do open yourself up to the possibility of a green flag stop in our final stage as well if you decide to go off strategy. So that's something to keep in mind as well as we go through the rest of this race and the final 2 stages that we have here. And go kind of look through the field. Like I said, top 10, 9 of them are playoff drivers. we are getting close to that cut race, which is going to be next week. That race is going to be at Kansas. We will then narrow it down. We have 2 more races after that, Daytona and Bristol, and then our final 4 will go to Las Vegas Motor Speedway. That'll be on December 16th, Terry, and they'll battle for the championship there. So if you're one of these playoff drivers, really good job being in the top 10 here. This is a tough race for a lot of these. Even real life drivers struggle with a road course like COTA. So for any of these playoff drivers, I think a top 10 is nothing to be upset about.
Yeah, I mean, this is not a place that you go, yep, I'm going to go out here and just score a top 10 unless you're really confident road course wise. And even if you're really, really confident, you can still make a mistake. You could put a tire off track. You can catch a curb in a freak accident. There's a lot of things that could go wrong. Somebody else behind you could slip the brake a little bit and run into you, maybe spin you around, end your day without you ending your day. But if you look at Tyler Dittmer, Ted Wade, I mean, they've shown they're the 2 best trucks across the board. Maybe this is where we go with it, and that's how we end this race. Surprisingly, nobody stayed out but Lothian.
Yeah, feeding time on pit road here. Yeah, Lothian did stay out there. Let's see. I'm interested to see what the tire call is here from your leader, Ted Wade.
Gotta be 4.
It has to. Well, I meant if he is taking tires, what I'm saying.
Oh, they're sharing pit stalls.
I think it's just type pit stalls here at Circuit of the Americas, but we mentioned it, Blake Lothian staying out after pitting earlier. Ted Wade's going to win your race off of pit road with, it looks like Dittmer is going to be the second driver off of pit road. Haney, Klinkert, Abbott, LaBeouf, Thomas, Cinnamon, and Newbert. So not much change there in your top 10. Kilgore lost a few spots. Bradley fell all the way back to 19th. So I'm not entirely sure what happened there from the 29 camp, maybe missing the pit stall or some problems getting off of pit road there. We're going to go back to green flag racing here. It's going to be, I believe, on lap 15, and you kind of mentioned it, Terry. That's really going to shorten stage number 2.
Yeah, this is a perfect opportunity if you're Lothian at this moment, because you'll have 5 laps to hold him off. And if you have the truck that we think that you have, you drove through the field, you were up almost 21 positions when you came down. I think that was your only opportunity to get track position. You was not going to do it based off of it. But I look back there at Keith Bradley. He was on pit lane for 33 seconds. So I'd imagine maybe a little damage repair, maybe a little something with the 29 machine that kind of held him up a little bit more. But he's still fast. I would not be surprised to see him back up in the top 10 before the stage is over.
Yeah, it makes sense. You got to get a little bit of damage repair here. Really, the aero is not going to matter too much on a road course, but especially if you have some kind of front end damage, maybe some steering damage, especially handling as important as it is here at a place like Circuit of the Americas. You definitely want to go down and get that fixed if you can, Terry.
I'm honestly more intrigued with what we're going to see here with the 43. I'm wondering if maybe he can hold him off. He had a very fast truck, but how hard was he on his tires? That's going to be another question that we're going to find out really, really quick, is if he kind of scorched those things off for the 4 laps he was on them, then he could be in a world of hurt here in a second.
Well, and that's the catch-22, too short pitting, right? Like if you have a bad corner, maybe spin the tires at one point or another, maybe a little bit of wheel hop, flat spot them at any point during that run. You've kind of negated your whole tire advantage here. So, yeah, something to take attention to with Blake Lothian for sure. It's something else, too, is that you now have 4 laps on those tires where Ted Wade behind you has none. And we've seen how fast he is already. And this is not a slight against Blake Lothian in the slightest, but his best lap was a 2:22.5 where Ted Wade was a 2:19.9. So there's a little bit of a gap there. I don't know if Lothian's going to be able to hold him off, but you put yourself in the best position you possibly can. And you got to do something different if you're going to beat Ted Wade. We've seen that so far this season.
Yeah, if you play follow the leader all race long, then, by the end of the race, you're still going to be behind everybody that you were there. But even if he falls back 5 spots, what a net gain. I mean, he started 27th. You start 27th on this field, you were dead last to start this race, and now you find yourself 13 laps later as the race leader. No matter what you do, it's a net win because you could only go up. You can't go any more further down, and, unless you just go up ton of laps down and you just stay at 0. But regardless of what he does, Blake Lothian's had a really good non-playoff strategy just to go out here and have some fun and maybe shock people and win this.
Yeah, and like I said, you got to do something different if you're going to try to do something to the 2 of Ted Wade, especially here on a road course. And he's just been so dominant everywhere that we possibly go. I just don't see the 43 holding him off. Even if it is a shortened lap count here in stage number 2. And you see the lights off on the lights are still on the pace truck. So I think we're going one more time here. And it appears, correct me if I'm wrong, I think the lap counter may have been reset, Terry. I don't know if they added an extra caution lap on or what happened there, but anyways, 15 laps is probably going to be when we go back to green flag racing. At this point, you see the lights out on the pace truck now. So definitely a bridge second stage. This is going to be probably pretty aggressive. I would imagine Ted Wade here, as we see the cars climbing the hill, the trucks climbing the hill, is going to be sending it to the outside on this turn 1 here and trying to get that spot as quickly as he can for Blake Lothian.
If I'm the 34 at Tyler Dittmer, to be honest with you, I'm timing what Blake Lothian does, and if I've got to be in his back bumper to tell him that he needs to go, he's gonna go. Regardless of what they do, and we got clarification there from our producers because they threw the caution after the line. You needed the caution to be thrown before, or somewhere around that, so we could potentially go. Maybe they should have did it when we got to lap 10, not lap 11, to put us there to give us the correct indicator, or maybe short the caution down when we pitted. But if I'm Tyler Dittmer, I'm going 3 wide to the inside. I'm trying to go driver to the driver's side and just sending that sucker in there and using those 4 fresh tires.
Yeah, and this is a very important spot for more playoff points for any of these 9 playoff drivers in the top 10 here. You got to think this is my opportunity to really just go up here and grab a few points, and maybe I can just reset then and think about winning this race, or just kind of seeing how it shakes out for the rest of the night. But a real opportunity for Blake Lothian, everybody else in this top 10 to get some valuable playoff points on Ted Wade. So a real good opportunity here. Someone's going to have to take advantage of it, but like I said, it's going to be tough to hold that 2 truck off.
It's gonna. Well, we said before the show, before we ever went live, that we thought we'd be bored talking about random stuff on the track, but this is far from boring, because we're gonna see who's got the better truck. You're gonna see, did the guy who drove through the field, did he burn his stuff up early? Was he just a flash in the pan to get past people that he knew he was faster than, or could he compete with Wade? Dittmer came on strong at the end. Can he potentially come up here and have that short run speed he didn't have before to hold himself up there in this position? It's going to be a cool little 5-lap shootout here. It's, I would say this moment, if you're Blake Lothian, let's checkers or wreckers for you.
Really, at this point, this is almost like the proverbial going for it on 4th down as far as getting playoff points goes. And I think another thing, too, to keep in mind is we saw how dominant Ted Wade was, especially with the short run speed. It was once he started to get 7, 8, 9, 10 laps on those Goodyear tires is when he started to fall off a little bit. So I think this plays into Ted Wade's hands a little bit as well. So something to keep in mind if you're Blake Lothian in the 43. So right now, it's going to be 1 lap on these tires, obviously under caution, but I think you're at an advantage here. If you're somebody that did pit right now, you can get those fresh tires and really go aggressive into the hill. And I think you're right. Tyler Dittmer is definitely somebody to watch here going up in the turn 1.
It's going to be a sight to be seen. We didn't really get the hard charge on the first initial restart, but this restart, and then obviously when we get the start of stage 3
Oh, there's
going.
a stack up at the back of the field. Sorry to interrupt you, Terry. One driver blew his engine. I heard it on iRacing here. And I think they got a push out of the way, or what happened there. But there was a stack up there farther back in the pack. Maybe what I heard was actually just one truck getting into another one that did involve Chris Cinnamon. And then we mentioned that damage isn't all that important, but definitely if you rear-end a driver, front-end damage is something that could end your night early. Really overheating problems you start to worry about now. And it looks like the field kind of has it figured out as we come back around to the start-finish line one more time to get this race restarted after our first stage break here. Ted Wade, your stage winner, will be on the outside of row number 1 in the second position. Blake Lothian in the 43 is in control of the field as Barty the flagman has the green flag in his hand one more time, and we are about to go racing here again from the virtual Circuit of the Americas in Austin, Texas. Green flags in the air. We're racing here again.
Yeah, that was the restart that Lothian needed. He actually got a good little spot there on Tyler Dittmer, and he went to cut off Ted Wade. Now Wade's going to shoot it to the outside. Can he make it stick there? Yes.
Yeah, that's exactly what Ted Wade needed to do in that situation. And I think it was, the 99 Painter is around. Looks like other trucks are involved as well. I think the 45 of Dana Shepard, I believe, is who I saw there as well. And maybe the 26 of Cody Knott. The 17 of Brandon Bullock was also involved. Back up at the front here, Ted Wade has got in front of Blake Lothian, and I think it was to Lothian's detriment trying to move over there and block Wade. It allowed Wade to get a good run and really dive into turn 1 aggressive on the outside, Terry.
Yeah, but Lothian hasn't let up. He's still there. He's actually put more pressure on Ted Wade than we saw in the first little part, except for Tyler Dittmer in the latter parts. But right now, if you're Tyler Dittmer, you're back there in third. You just need to kind of relax as you see a driver spinning into the infield to the wall. But you got to be aggressive. You got to be on his back bumper. You got to do everything that you can do. There's the Ford machine. He's around again. That's Adam Newbert. He's gone almost head first into the wall, but held it. But maybe overdrive it. Maybe scare Ted Wade a little bit and make him second guess his line.
Well, it's always the little bit of gamesmanship and racecraft, so to speak, no pun intended, here on Racecraft TV that we see in road course racing. And you kind of mentioned that you poke your nose out when you're going into a corner, show yourself in the mirror, maybe disappear out of the mirror for a second if you're trying to chase a driver like Ted Wade, because you kind of mentioned it. You're going to have to force him to make a mistake. It's not going to be a situation probably where you're going to chase him down, because the lap times just show that nobody's going to be able to do that so far. So unless one of these drivers finds about a second and a half here, they're not going to meet Ted Wade's pace. And at that point, you just got to hope that he makes a mistake.
I mean, I guess you can hope that he does. Through the second sector of this track, I mean, Blake Lothian's keeping pace with him. You go here to the third part of the sector, he's keeping pace with him. He actually kind of caught him off the apex of the last corner, but down the straight, it kind of shows the difference in pace between Wade and Lothian. And we'll see in turn 1 right here as we get to the first portion here. What can Lothian do, as he was a little slower on the brake than Ted Wade.
Able to get a good corner exit, though, as they head down into the S's here. Again, Wade, Lothian, Dittmer, Klinkert, and Abbott, your top 5 right now. And these drivers going through this X section again for now the 16th time this evening here on the racetrack, Terry. And we honestly thought this section of the track was going to be a lot more troublesome than it has been. Everybody's managed it actually pretty well.
Yeah, nobody's went in there too wide. Nobody's really tried to make a whole lot of crazy bonsai moves across the board. But you saw right there, Lothian, he got a little squirrely off the exit, but he's pushing it. He's pushing this truck to the absolute limits. He sees the bunny in front of him. He knows what he has to do to potentially make it work. As you see him, he got hard on the brakes there, almost lost it, but got a really good corner exit. So he's having a whole lot of fun with what would be tires that are just destroyed at this moment, and drivers behind them they're slipping and sliding like an ice skating ring.
Yeah, this would be the 7th lap now that Blake Lothian has on that set of tires, and that's where we kind of started to see the fall off from the 2 of Ted Wade. A good entry into the corner that time is going to be able to keep him in line with Ted Wade here. And Dittmer, they're kind of falling off a little bit. So really Lothian, the only one that's been able to give any kind of threat to Ted Wade so far, albeit a minor threat, no reference to the punk ban, but so far this has been Ted Wade's race as soon as he gets to the front. And we've seen that all season long, and we kind of sound like broken records up here in the Racecraft commentary booth, but just goes to show you how dominant he's been all season long.
Well, let's see. We've had a punk band, a George Strait, and a channel reference. I think we're doing good reference-wise for a road course. But now he's doing what he has to do. I mean, you have to put pressure on something. You have to make it seem like you have the pace. You can't make this strategy and just sit up here and fall like a rock. You have to make yourself. You have to make yourself look good. You can't just go ahead and be like, you know what, I led a lap under caution. I'm going to go follow the back now. Blake Lothian's showing why he's a winner, showing why he can do what he does. He's taken a wonderful approach to turn one. He's doing really good through 2, 3, 4, or 2, 3, 3A, and 4, swinging left, swinging right, taking himself out of the mirror. He's doing exactly what everybody else wishes that they could do.
And we take a look here at the playoff standings as well, just to give you an idea of what's at stake in this battle. Obviously, Ted Wade still in front of the point standings with the one win here last week in our first playoff race. His teammate Keith Bradley, and going back to Dittmer here, you have to go to about 6th position. So this is a really important spot for him to be in. Obviously, Lothian, not a playoff driver, is just up here looking for bragging rights. Going back to Klinkert, this is a really good run for him. He finds himself towards the bottom half of the playoff field, but it's really going to hurt Joey Doucette, who's now out of this race, 11 laps down. Kind of hurts all of his chances of making the next round, puts himself kind of in a must-win situation next week when we go to Kansas. So, well, all these drivers that are up here in the top 10, that's great that all those playoff drivers are up there, but really it makes it hard to get any kind of advantage if you're one of these drivers that are trying to make a separation in points.
Yeah, and Kansas isn't necessarily one of the places that you go to and you think, okay, we have an opportunity to go out here and put it all on the line, because it's sometimes just a one groove racetrack. You can get the second groove to work sometimes, but that outside lane has been predominantly dominant. But Tyler Dittmer actually just did something impressive. He was the only driver in this race to put a 118 down. It was a 118.8 or a 218.8, and that he threw down here. So he flew around the track that time, but then this lap here, little less consistency out of it. He's been kind of, sector 1, he was okay. Sector 2, he kind of fell back, and then we're here at the 3rd sector. He's doing really good, but see if he can put a more consistent group of laps together and maybe come up here and run the leaders down.
And you almost read my mind when you said that, Terry, because I looked up right when that 218.8 popped up for Dittmer, and yes, as you mentioned it, fastest lap of the race so far, and you can see that gap is starting to close to Lothian even more so through turn 1 here. So Dittmer could be someone in discussion to maybe make a charge at Ted Wade next. It seems like somebody gets up to Ted Wade and then chasing him down burns up their equipment. In the case of Lothian, obviously it's the 9-lap old tires there, so you see a big bump at the curb there for Ted Wade. It's really the biggest bobble we've seen out of him so far, and it doesn't seem to have phased him so much.
Yeah, I think we might have jinxed this race beforehand when we said we thought it would be single file, kind of just spread out. We wouldn't see very much racing. We'd just see a bunch of separation. And the top 3 is only a second apart. And lap times are identical. I mean, it's 2:19.6, 2:19.9, 2:19.6 for the top 3. Everybody else is in the 2:20s. So we clearly see who our 3 faster drivers are. Even on older tires, Blake Lothian's still there contending for the race win and the race lead. The possibility when if everybody comes down in pits on this caution to start stage 3 and can go 20 laps, this will be one of the most intriguing battles for the win that you're going to see at COTA.
Right, and you kind of have to wonder maybe some of these drivers that are farther back in the pack, Terry, maybe if some of the speed and lap time advantages we're seeing towards the top 3 are because it could be some of these drivers back in the pack are saving fuel. Now we look back here towards the 48 of Robert Richards. He was caught up in an earlier incident, managed to work his way all the way back up to the 13th position, up 6 spots from when he started this race. And you look through this field, a lot of these drivers are oval primary drivers. So when you come to a road course like this, it's really drivers that really kind of, this is their thing. That's when they come to shine. But some of these names that kind of stand out to me that are in the top 15 are this driver right here. You know, with Robert Richards finding himself a little bit of a wobble there, but having a good run.
Yeah, you almost jinxed him there. Yeah, road racing's not for everybody. There's a lot of people that don't enjoy it, that don't find success at it. I personally don't find a whole lot of success at it, but I enjoy it. It takes a lot of different disciplines to work it. You have to be good at both feet, working the pedals. You see the 26s around here. That would be Cody Knott. That has gone around. The 99s around again. It's the second time we've seen him spin. But there's a whole lot of disciplines that come in this race, and there's a lot of drivers up here that kind of surprises me a whole lot across the board. I mean, I didn't expect to see 10 playoff drivers in the top 11. I kind of thought we would have a little bit more of a blend here, but all in all, it's been a good race.
Yeah, and you go back through some of your other playoff drivers, you go down to the 17th position with Michael McKinnon, and he's found himself towards the bottom half of this 16-man playoff field so far. So he's going to be looking for something, maybe one of those drivers that is going to be short pitting the stage here as we're going to come to 1 lap to go next time they take the flag, Terry. But you go back from there. Bullock in the 17th finds himself about halfway, midway in points, around 8th position. And then Peacock finds himself in the top 4 right now. Remember, we're going to trim the field down to 8 after Kansas. So really want to put yourself in a position where you're in that top 8. Right now, obviously, Ted Wade is there, Keith Bradley, Stephen Thomas, Taylor Peacock, Lumpkin, Haney, Dittmer, and Abbott right now make up your top 8 points. So that's really what you're watching for in this battle through your top 11 drivers. And Lothian is still on the back bumper of Wade. I will give him that with 10-lap old tires right now. He's not giving up, Terry.
He's not giving up. He's actually closing in some parts of the racetrack, and right there was one of them. He's there. It's side by side for the race lead, and he's got the advantage here.
And I was watching there as well. It's kind of hard to tell because you saw that Ted Wade kind of flashed there for a second, but it seemed like he gets really loose. That's a big move in front of the 43 there. It didn't look so much like it from the camera angle, but that was very daring by the two. He's going to cut off the 43 here, but he's going to have another bobble again. The 43 is going to be able to get side by side, and it's going to be a drag race up to turn 1, Terry.
He's giving him all he wants, and if you're Ted Wade, you're getting all you want plus some at this moment. He took a really shallow entry into 1, very defensive line going there. He allowed Lothian to take more of a traditional approach to go in, and allowed Tyler Dittmer to take whatever approach he wanted. He took kind of a mid-conservative approach. He went halfway through it, dove it in deep, and now you see here taking all the curbs for the 43, and now here comes Dittmer. He's working his way in here. It's a 3-way fight for the Stage 2 win.
Yeah, it's really a struggle there for Lothian through the S's. He's lucky that he's able to stay out in front of Dittmer for now, but you mentioned it. This is a 3-way battle for the stage win. Lap 20 here, coming to the caution for our stage break once these drivers get back to the line. And Ted Wade has opened up about a 3/4 of a second lead over Blake Lothian right now, and Dittmer is all over the back bumper of Lothian as well too. Lothian looks like here is maybe actually going to let Dittmer go and maybe try to work a strategy here where he follows him up to Ted Wade and gets like a 2-for-1 kind of deal. But Lothian looks like he's falling back even a little bit more now. Might have burned up the rubber there on that 43 machine.
Well, I mean, I'm not saying that people do this, but I think you have to realize who you're racing against. You have to realize that you're racing against playoff drivers. The Lifton right there was smart, not to put Tyler Dittmer in a must-win position or wreck him in yourself. You have a massive gap to Klinkart back there in 4th. There's no sense in holding him up. If Tyler Dittmer's faster than you, just let him go. He is racing for a championship. You are not. So be smart, be conservative. You could potentially start 3rd on the restart. Maybe that's an idea that he might have thrown out. Hey, we're going to come pit potentially here. I start 3rd. I have an opportunity to jump to the inside of Ted Wade on the restart while we trap you to the outside. So there's a lot of different strategies could be flowing here.
Again, we're going to be coming to our stage break here for stage number 2 when we get back to the stripe. Ted Wade still your leader, Dittmer, Lothian, Cleancart, Abbott, your top 5 right now. And we've been talking about all night long the plethora of playoff drivers that are in the top half of the field. But Ted Wade is going to be your stage 2 winner here as caution on the racetrack again for our stage break. So we come back around, we're going to have some pit stops here, Terry, and I'm curious to see again if we'll see any strategy plays here with the stage 2 break.
I mean, you see how spread out this field was. They were at the top of one. You saw people halfway on the other side of the racetrack. Strategies could be galore here. We'll be under 20 to go when we take the green flag again. Pack it full of fuel. I would say take 4 tires, and that's it. That's your last pit stop. So you have to be conservative, but you have to be aggressive at the same time to work your way and stay in a position to win this race.
Absolutely, and you know, I don't want to say it's a foregone conclusion that Ted Wade is going to win this race, because that's not fun for anybody watching along at home. But you got to imagine if you're one of these other drivers, you kind of have to have that mentality and approach this race like that. You might have to go for all the points you possibly can get, because you know you're not going to get the race win. Even if you drive maybe a perfect race, just the lap time advantage is so much in Ted Wade's favor. So maybe you're going to have to go off strategy, bury Ted Wade deep in the pack here, so he has to fight his way all the way back up to you. And that's the way that you go and get the race win. But it's really going to be important here, this next stop, to see what everybody does.
Well, I will say, I think if anybody's going to beat him, it's Blake Lothian or Tyler Dittmer. Those two have been phenomenal in every aspect of this race. They've been very good on old tires. They've been good on new tires. I want to see Blake Lothian with 4 fresh ones. I want to see him on a consistent run. And I think this race isn't just going to be the 2-car or the 2-truck pulling it out. I think we're going to see with the blocks he was throwing, maybe him get shoved out of the way, like what we saw with Ross Chastain, Alex Bowman, and AJ Allmendinger when the Cup Series was here. That race came down to the final corner. Can we see a move like that again? And if you're Blake Lothian, you have nothing to lose. So,
well, yeah, and you're right, Sarah. I don't want to say it's all been rainbows and butterflies for the two, because it hasn't. You bring up an excellent point. He's had to work for it, and you mentioned earlier in the broadcast as well. The Dittmer had the fastest lap with, let me see here, 2:18.8. So that is another point to bring up as well. Ted Wade still with the fastest overall average lap time, but that is definitely something to look for. Tyler Dittmer definitely has some speed here as we go into the latter half of this race at the Circuit of the Americas.
Yeah, and you know, now that we get to sit here and we get to watch this race towards the end of it, can we see somebody go out here and maybe make a bonsai move at him? Maybe force him into something that he necessarily doesn't want to be in. I mean, we saw with Lothian how he pressured him and he stayed on the back bumper of him, kind of made him second guess what he was doing driving style wise. He had to take more of a defensive line. When earlier in the race you saw him, he was able to take more of a conservative approach. He was able just to roll around, have a little bit of fun, as you see the 6 of Jason Morales down on pit lane. This race is setting up to be an absolute thriller.
And the 6 down on pit lane, you did mention there, Terry, nobody else has decided to come down to pit lane yet. And I'm interested to see if anybody will stay out in this for this pit stop here. I don't know if it's, again, I'm not entirely sure on the fuel window situation, if these drivers can make it 20 laps. I would think not. So I think there's still one more stop probably for fuel left, but I may be wrong about that, Terry.
Yeah, I'm interested to see what the fuel numbers are going to be here with this field. But I think that everybody should pit here just to kind of keep yourself on a cycle and roll around and do whatever.
19 laps to go right now, and I think when we get back to the stripe, as it looks like I think Ted Wade is trying to hide inside the pace truck, that would be a bold strategy. Nobody really see you there, but that's always fun when you're the leader. You get to go up and mess with the pace truck. And I think these pace laps are so long, Terry. I know you and I are coming up with stuff to talk about. I think inside the cockpit for these drivers as well. Maybe these caution laps on the road course, Circuit of the Americas over 2.5 miles long. It probably starts to take a toll on you mentally.
Yeah, we're kind of just thinking of things to go about and talk about. I mean, we could discuss the Whataburger In-N-Out here.
Oh, we could do that now.
We got about 5 minutes.
So hear me out on this, and if anybody wants to chime in on the chat at home, feel free to get into this with us. That's what we're here for, especially with these long caution laps here at Circuit of the Americas. But I will say this: you say that In-N-Out is overpriced, but by the same token, you don't have to pay 50 cents for each piece of cheese at In-N-Out, where you do have to at Whataburger.
Okay, I see that. I can see that. But if you think about the quantity and the quality you get with Whataburger, I mean, you get a sandwich that's almost the size of, I would say the Big Show's hands, an oversized drink and a massive fry, and pretty sure you can't get peppered ketchup at In-N-Out.
Oh, well, I mean, I do miss the spicy ketchup. That's true. If I was one of these drivers, maybe asking for a number 2 meal and a spicy ketchup when I go in for this stop here. I will say in a former life, I was a hockey equipment manager, and something that was always fun about going to San Antonio, Terry, was that there was a Whataburger actually inside the AT&T Center where the San Antonio Rampage paid their home games. So that was always fun going there for a road game and getting some Whataburger. You could at least get your fix that way. And it looks like a majority, if not all of your field here is taking 4 tires and full of Sunoco race fuel here. A little bit of a battle off of pit road here. It looks like Ted Wade is barely going to sneak it out there. I believe Taylor Peacock was the driver that he beat out here. We'll see when he comes alongside here.
Peacock stayed out.
Oh, Peacock is actually staying out, so it was Dittmer that he barely beat out there. So Peacock stays out, and he was on the group of drivers that pitted at our first stage break. So he's got 10 laps on those tires right now and 10 laps of fuel out of that race truck. So Peacock goes off strategy here, looking to get himself maybe into playoff position and get himself a win here. He hasn't got a win so far in the season, was able to make it into the playoffs strictly on points. And one of these drivers that is really trying to break through, and what better time to do it now, lock yourself into the next round and not have to worry about it when you go to Kansas.
This will be a way to do it. We'll have another lap, a pace lap here to go around, but it's a good strategy. I've only been to Texas once. I drove through it when I was coming to Georgia from Colorado. That is a massive state.
Oh yeah, you can to put it in perspective too, you can make a trip from Chicago to Texas, and you spend a majority of that trip in Texas, about 8.5 hours. So very, very large state. Yes, lots of land as well. I will say one advantage to being here in Austin, Texas, Terry, is that you not only have Whataburger, you also have In-N-Out. You also have a local burger chain called P. Terry's, which is fantastic. So if you really wanted to, and I would probably do this, you could go get a burger from all 3 of those places and not even have to have a debate, because you could just have all of it.
My favorite part of Texas was a small town called Goodnight, Texas. I think it has about 300 people that live in it. It only had a Dollar General and the most random mechanic shop possible. There was not a whole lot going on. Okay. Cookout, it is, I will agree with our producer, it's kind of mid across the board, as the kids say with the mid thing. I got a cookout here in Georgia. They always mess my order up. The only time I think they're good was when I was drinking. Now that I don't drink anymore, cookout's just kind of ugh.
Now, okay, I know we're kind of going down a tangent here, but what about fried chicken? Because like now all of a sudden I want to say that Popeyes is a superior fried chicken, and I will die on that hill, and I will argue that with anybody.
Have you ever had Church's?
Look, Church's is just like we have Popeyes at home. You know what I mean?
Oh, that's okay. Well, hey, hey. I didn't mean to step on your toes there. I mean, yeah, Popeyes is good. I thought their sandwich was a little overrated. It was not as good as people threw it out to be. I kind of thought,
Oh, Zach brings up an excellent point, and I forgot about this. Bojangles.
Bojangles is the A++. Great breakfast, great dinner. Their potatoes are a little weird, but I don't go to Bojangles for mashed potatoes. I go to KFC for those.
Also, throwing it out there, Bojangles' favorite chicken restaurant of NASCAR, Coca-Cola, Coke Series driver Garrett Maines. So, yeah.
Good plug.
Throwing that out there as well.
Good plug. Good
Yes.
plug for you.
Be sure to check that out next season when we get back. And I guess February is when the Coke Series would start back up again. Obviously, our series here going to December. That's when our playoff race, our playoffs will conclude in Las Vegas. And then after that, the Triple M Pulling Truck Series will take a short break, and I would assume be back in the new year. But yeah, for Coke Series, probably have to wait till February again.
Yeah, I don't know. Bojangles is also the sponsor of the Dale Jr. Download, so big win on that one too. I don't know. Bojangles is probably my favorite place to get breakfast. It used to be Hardee's, and I'm sure that's weird for a lot of people to hear, because Hardee's or Carl's Jr. as most of the Midwest people think of it. They have fell off a ton. They used to have the best biscuit. It was very buttery. It was perfect, and now it's just like. What did you do? Like, what? You killed yourself from the inside out, and now it's Bojangles.
I will agree with you. Growing up on the West Coast, it was Carl's Jr. to me, and they had the Western bacon cheeseburger.
Yes,
and that was delicious.
They got rid of it.
Yeah, they got rid of everything that was good.
It's like you just internally, somebody sat at a boardroom meeting room and was like, what's our top seller? Oh, it's our buttery biscuits and our Western bacon burger. Kill them both. Put the least common seller on the board. Go sell that.
I will say, if you ever find yourself here in Austin, Texas, home of Circuit of the Americas, if you go through the airport there, Austin Bergstrom Airport, the airport has a very good chopped brisket taco place.
Ooh.
Yes, they're excellent, and it's open 24/7. So if you ever find yourself stuck at the airport there, well, probably not 24/7, but at least as late as flights are there. I used to get it for breakfast all the time when I was flying a lot out of Austin, and it is absolutely delicious.
I definitely have to. Try that. I don't know when I'll ever be in Austin again, but if I go out there to see my foster parents, I will be more than sure to make sure I go into Austin, Texas. So I don't know. My wife wants to go to a Cowboys game out there, so maybe we'll fly into Austin to get some good brisket. Because I mean, there's nothing no better than barbecue, and I hear Texas is number one.
Texas is very solid. Kansas City barbecue. I will say Nashville barbecue is probably my favorite, which I know is a little bit out there, and people probably.
I'm a Nashville guy. I'm all for it. I like the praise for Nashville. I like Mexico, Missouri. I stopped there on my way to Colorado from Tennessee, and had some of the best barbecue of my life in a small little. I think it was called Pigs and Sticks. Was the barbecue joint out there right off the exit. Phenomenal barbecue, great hospitality. Their sweet tea almost gave me diabetes, but who cares?
Yeah, I mean, that is sweet tea, and especially when you boil like pounds of sugar into tea, that is what's going to happen for sure. And hopefully we haven't made all of you watching along at home too hungry here on Racecraft TV this evening. Obviously, Terry and I are very, very hungry for burgers.
I'm starving.
Brisket, barbecue, and everything like that. And hopefully, once the pace truck finds the safety of pit road here, everybody watching along at home is hungry for some racing, because we're going to be going back racing here with about 16 laps to go. So not quite the full 20 lap stage that we kind of anticipated, but we know that with the caution laps and a caution into the stage just a little bit here. And Peacock's gonna have his work cut out for him holding off Ted Wade. I will say that, Terry.
Why he chose the outside is beyond me. Maybe he realized what Lothian felt on the inside there. Maybe trying to get the cut back. Maybe jump this start here, cut in front of him, go a defensive line. I was very surprised to look up and see that the 81 took that lane for this restart here. Maybe it'll work out. Maybe he's just going to give it to Ted Wade here as they go into one, but that's a bit questionable there.
Yeah, well, something I'm possibly thinking of is with Peacock there getting the outside, heading into turn number 1, it does set him up for the inside line for turn number 2. And we kind of saw that with Ted Wade with our last restart here, where he made the pass on Lothian and then was able to get to the outside there and make the move going into the S's. So maybe Peacock saw that happen and is trying to take a page out of Ted Wade's book and use it against him here. But we'll find out when we go back to Green Flag Racing here from Circuit of the Americas. Taylor Peacock is going to have the field in hand here, and Barney the Flagman will wave the green flag. You see the lights there illuminated. We're back to racing here. As we dive into turn 1, we'll see if Peacock takes the outside line and tries to seal off Ted Wade here. You see him dive in so aggressively, but look at that. Lothian going to the split 3 wide. He's going to find himself in second spot, and he's actually going to take first place away from Ted Wade as well. What a move there, Terry.
That was the ballsiest move I've seen at COTA in a long time. I don't think he cared who was on the outside. He wanted the race lead, and man, he took it. He didn't ask for permission. He just drove that sucker in there and made it stick. If he wins this race, we go back to lap 16 on that restart and say, you, my friend, drove through the entire field. Remember, he started last. Now he's the race leader with 16 to go.
Started from the bottom. Now he's here, and he's trying to hold off Ted Wade now for first place, and that's a tall order. We've seen Lothian be in this spot before, not able to hold off Ted Wade. I will say one thing he has to his advantage now as the 5 goes around in the back. That's Klinkart there, one of your playoff drivers. He's going to have to wait for the entire field to go around, so this is going to be terrible for his playoff standings right now. Going back to the front of the field here, Lothian still holding on to about a 2 or 3 truck length advantage over Ted Wade as they head down into the next corner. But we've seen Lothian be in this position before, Terry. He's not able to hold Wade off on the long run, but I think as we have another Peacock's around now, the 81's around, so big playoff implications here on the restart for stage number 3.
Yeah, and he got no tires, old tires coming off the corner. Just kind of held up and bottlenecked the field there, and everybody's going for the position. Nobody's really going to lift here. You see the 23 having a little bit of an issue across the nose here. He holds on to it. There was so much to happen right there, especially with the 5 of Klinkart. He was having a great run. He was up in the top 5, top 6 all race long. And now he finds himself well back in 19th. He's 15 seconds off this pace to get up here and race for anything. But now you see the battle for the lead. There goes the 2 of Wade.
Yeah, Lothian overcooked it there heading into the final corner, but does have a good run here with Ted Wade going into turn number 1. You got to look there back as well. Dittmer is also in position here as well. And even Bradley, Ted Wade's teammate, is mixing up here for the lead as well. Lothian able to regain the lead as they head back into turn number 1. And you've seen it. I think just what we're seeing right now, Terry, is this is the final stage, 15 laps to go. I just think we're seeing more aggression coming out of every driver.
Well, I want to go back to a point that you brought up in stage 1 is the amount of laps you'll put on this racetrack, and that a lot of people might have just been sitting here going, well, you know, I got 40 laps to figure it out. You know, I got 20 laps to figure this out at the stage points. We'll get there. We'll get some understanding of this track. We'll get new tires on it and race for it. Now you see it. The guy who's dominated this race, and Ted Wade, he's back and forth, and he's actually falling off of this pack. It's one at 1 point or 1 second even going to the corner is Dittmer. He's looking in the inside of Lothian here. He can make it stick. He made it stick. They're side by side now.
Yeah, side by side coming down this short stretch here. And this is really important if you're a driver like Tyler Dittmer. You have an opportunity here to lock yourself into the next round of the playoffs. Another playoff driver as we go 3 wide for the lead now is Bradley. And look at this. Something's got to give here a little bit. You can see Dittmer start to give a little bit in the middle of 3 wide there, but Lothian's not giving Bradley any room there at all. He still wants this win. He doesn't care if he's not in the playoffs. He wants the race win, Terry.
Well, this is kind of when you start playing the old wrestling strategy of going in business for yourself. If you're Blake Lothian, I don't think you give a Rudy Toots behind you, playoff driver or not. I mean, you gave up the spot right there to Tyler Dittmer at the end of stage 2, and now you're sitting here with Bradley, Dittmer, and Wade behind you, and you're like, I don't care who you are. I mean, you could be the championship leader. I'm going to race you the same. I want the win. It's COTA. It's 20 turns. I'll pinch you in the corner. Don't care. He made the 29 of Bradley actually check up a little bit here. He still holds the lead.
Yeah, and he's doing a great job making that 43 just about as wide as the entire racetrack here at Circuit of the Americas. And just really quickly, we're looking at this battle here for the lead. Give a shout out there, 8th position. The 48 of Robert Richards, a really good run for him so far. Finds himself up here in the top 10. One of those drivers playing spoiler to the rest of our playoff drivers here. And the playoff drivers kind of spread their way out through the field here just a little bit. Still have 25 trucks on the racetrack, and all 25 of those trucks are also on the lead lap right now. Terry, Joey Doucette, and Zachary Heitwick, your only retirements as of lap with 14 laps to go here. Lap 28 next time they come to the flag stand.
Yeah, but we're seeing, I mean, I think we totally jinxed ourselves and what kind of race we were going to see. Now you're starting to see everybody fight a little harder as you see the 3 of Cinnamon off the racetrack again. It's like the 3rd time we've seen that. But you're seeing Keith Bradley. We hadn't seen him in the top 2 until now. And now here he sits fighting for this race lead. The 43 of Lothian's going to pinch again, make it hard off the exit of the corner, down this short chute. He'll go. And look at Abbott back there behind him. Brian Abbott actually got around Ted Wade as well. Something's amiss here for somebody.
Yeah, something has to be wrong with that 2 machine of Ted Wade. I don't know if he picked up some damage or what's going on there, but he's definitely struggling here. You see Bradley diving in deep to that corner, trying to get the runoff, and Lothian there did get a little bit of a wiggle out of the corner. Might give the spot to Bradley there, but Lothian's going to come back hard on the outside here. It looks like Bradley's going to be able to hold on to the spot for now. Lothian is now under fire from Dittmer there in the 34 machine. You see him now, and this is a 3-way battle for your lead, almost a 4-way battle. You're right there with Abbott looking on. If anything happens to these leaders, Terry, he's right there to capitalize.
Well, with the way they're racing, I couldn't imagine a race that goes clean to the end. I could imagine something happening because you said you got Abbott sitting up here. He's about a 1.5 seconds off. He's a couple tenths off of Dittmer here. He's a bobble away from going up here and challenging for this race lead is the 29 of Bradley. He leads his first lap here of the evening with 13 to go. And now with Lothian, what's he going to do in 1? How aggressive can he be, especially with Bradley going to be on the defensive?
And something that might be worth considering here, if you're the 5, you're the 2 of Ted Wade, as we see him kind of sitting there in that 5th position, maybe he's saving tires, maybe he's saving fuel. Terry is going to give it a run. There's a lot of time here left in this race. I know it says 13 laps to go, but each one of these laps are taking about 2 minutes. So you do the math on that, you still got about 24, 26 minutes of racing left here. So still a lot of time for Ted Wade to make his way back up through the field.
Yeah, we got plenty of race to go. That's not going to be the problem. The problem is how much you do save. If that is affecting what you're doing, and you're kind of sitting there pacing yourself to go, don't outpace yourself out of the race. Don't sit back there and just, okay, I can quarter throttle, I can do whatever. You got to keep a gap in between you. If you start getting to that 3-second gap frame, you're going to have to hope for something in front of you to kind of take hold of it. And then you got to think, okay, am I going to get held up here? If I try to get back around Abbott, is he going to block me? If I try to catch Dittmer, what's he going to do? You don't want to put yourself in a box and take your own self out of the position for the win. As Lothian, he went to the peak to the inside, trying to outbrake the 29 of Bradley, and he might. Oh, what a send!
Yeah, and it doesn't really. I'm sorry, it helps Lothian there that Bradley kind of overcooked the corner there, got a little bit loose, you saw, and tried to recover. That will give the spot back to Lothian there with 13 laps to go here from Circuit of the Americas. And it's been a back and forth battle here for the lead ever since the drop of the green flag here for stage 3. Again, Dittmer getting a run on Bradley here. He's going to maybe take a look to the inside this time by, thinks better of it. Lothian still hanging on to the lead here and is going to hold the defensive line to the next complex of corners. Setting him up for this left-hander here, another hard braking zone. We'll see if Bradley has anything for him here. He is going to get to the inside, but Lothian able to hang on to the spot for the time being. We're going to battle back here, coming back to the start-finish line here at Circuit of the Americas. 12 laps to go, and Lothian's going to be your leader. Bradley, Dittmer, Abbott, Wade, your top 5 right now.
Ooh, a slowdown for Lothian.
Is that what that is?
Yeah, he had a slowdown there. He kind of cut the corner just a little bit. Had the slowdown. Oh no, the 34 Dittmer's around.
Dittmer's around. It looks like he was trying to brake stay off of Bradley and just got too much of the rear wheels, maybe a little bit of wheel hop there. He's going to lose a few position. Looks like that'll put about the 10th position right now. He's battling there with the 78 of Keith Haney. That's actually going to be for 7th position. So unfortunate break there for Dittmer, but doesn't lose too many spots off it, Terry.
Yeah, and that slowdown right there for Lothian, he barely caught it, but he was so close. And he had to slow down for a couple seconds, and he did, and he gave it up, and then you saw the chaos that kind of followed it here. It actually hurt the two. He fell back a little bit. It hurt a lot of these drivers. And now look at Bradley. I mean, he's 2 seconds ahead here. And now Abbott moved himself up to the 2nd place position. He's got a fan out there in the chat, Richard May, cheering the 82 on.
And you look at the front of the 82, my only concern about that is maybe some overheating issues there for Abbott as you see the damage to the front of that F-150 there. But so far doing a good job being up here in the 2nd position, trying to run down Bradley. But you see Lothian's there all over the back bumper. He's going to make the look to the inside this time, and you got to imagine he's been aggressive so far, locking up the brakes a little bit. He wants that 2nd spot back.
Yeah, he definitely wants it back, but he has to be careful. He did it again. He kind of cut the corner a little bit more than what you typically get away with. So we'll see if he's even more aggressive when it comes to the corners here. But that 43, he's got some pace in him. There's no doubt in my mind that he's going to be a threat for this win. If he could just get around Abbott, or hell, maybe just get Abbott up there, and they're closing on Bradley.
Yeah, I think at this position, you really got to think, if I keep trying to pass you, that's just going to slow the both of us down. We got 12 laps to go here at COTA. Maybe Lothian, Abbott working together to catch up to Bradley. And then at that point, it's just a 3-way battle for the lead. But we'll see how it goes here and how this develops over the next 11 now laps to go here. And Bradley holding on to about a 1.5-second lead as we have a little bit of trouble. It looks like maybe the 00 of Huck Wigington had an issue there going around. And there's a 20 of Jose Luis Rivera getting it going again. So these drivers still, after all these laps they've had, struggling with this road course, Terry. And I don't think that's any surprise.
Yeah, it's no surprise that we're getting the racing that we're getting for a lot of these drivers who are up here kind of battling out. Just not too long ago, Ian, we were saying that there was a 10 out of 11 playoff drivers, and now it's anything but. It's a big separation between everybody. You got LaBeouf finally back in the mix up here. He's in 12th. He wasn't on our radar at all during this race. Lumpkin wasn't on our radar at all during this race. He finds himself right now in the 10th place position. There's a lot of people that kind of just showed up when the pay window opened for points. And we're starting to see everybody rise up here, as I believe Clean had a bit of an issue back there too.
Yeah, and you're looking at one playoff driver again right now. This is the 9 of Brady LaBeouf, a former champion here in the NASRA Triple M Polling Truck Series. I was talking to him a little bit earlier this week, talking about how this is probably going to be his last series, at least with the trucks. He's going to be moving up to the Xfinity Series next year. So looking to make a good run out of it. Already has a championship to his belt, but trying to go out on a high note and get at least one more win in the playoffs really important to the 9 truck.
Yeah, Lothian just got around Abbott up here in the first part. They're starting to battle again for that second place position, allowing Wade to come in. Oh no, contact's made. He washed him out of the way. He turned him.
Oh no, the 82's around.
Oh no.
And that's for playoff. That has playoff implications as well, Terry.
Oh man, he turned him.
I don't know if that was.
It wasn't intentional, but
yeah, I was gonna say I don't think he actually turned him.
No, he sent that sucker in there. You look at the replay here. I mean, they were beating and banging for a little bit. You see, they washed out here, and they come back on the track, and then it was just I'm there, contact again. I mean, there was 2 set right there at both corners. Oh, that's massive.
Yeah, you can see that he kind of was already loose, and then when he's going to get here with the tap from, the tap from Lothian, the first tap is going to get Lothian loose, and then that gets into the rear there of Abbott. So kind of a bummer here. Oh, Thomas just barely avoids him. That was almost one more driver involved. Again, not losing too many spots, but still, you go from battling for the win to back in about the 6th position. That's got to be disappointing.
Well, I could just imagine what the radio chatter was when that happens, because you don't necessarily get the best temper out of people when they go around. But you look here at this, I believe this is the 48 machine. That's Richards trying to get Newbert. There's 2 non-playoff drivers trying to battle up here inside the top 10. The big championship implications, though, with Abbott going around. That's massive. Now I kind of hope Lothian wins the race, because then he can kind of justify a little bit more of, hey, I'm fast.
I mean, it's one of those things, and you got to be aware of it as a playoff driver as well. And I think that's something that's special about the playoffs, especially in racing, is that even if you are not playoff driver, you're out here racing with these playoff drivers. And you mentioned it earlier in our broadcast that there's a certain amount of respect that has to go on there, Terry. But at the end of the day, everybody's out there racing for the win. And you kind of mentioned it, the old a wrestling trope of, when do you start working for yourself? And I do think any one of these playoff drivers, any one of these non-playoff drivers, you're there to win every single one.
No, and I get that, but we look at the move that he pulled in the corner before, where he kind of said it as the 4 goes around, the 48 goes around. There's 2 for 1 for Lumpkin and Klinkhardt, and kind of got the recipients of that. But if you send it in, and you're not going to make the corner, right? And we saw that there before they made contact in the 2 sets of corners.
No.
Oh, he's stuck too.
Yeah, that is really unfortunate, because he was having such a great run. We pointed out a few laps ago that Robert Richards was having an excellent run up there in the top 10, and then finds himself in a position where that was a pretty light contact into that fence. But we see that happen often on iRacing, Terry, is just once you hit that Aramco barrier like that, there is the possibility where your car just kind of sticks to it.
Yeah, but to go back to the point with the 43 there, if you send yourself into the corner knowing you're not going to make it, you put yourself in a vulnerable situation to have contact made with you. And that's the way it worked with Abbott and him. His contact was made on the outskirts of it. And that's the risk you're willing to take. You're a non-playoff driver with the playoff driver. And it's the same issue that kind of happened, not the same situation with Ty Gibbs and Brandon Jones, but there's a point that you kind of have to go, okay, listen, I know I can't make this move. I don't want to wipe your race out. Well, you did. You wiped his race all the way back to 7th. He's fighting for 2nd, fighting for the win, and now he's barely in a position to get past somebody for a top 6 position, and he would need some luck to get up there in the top 5 to rebound his race. But there's a level of respect that you have to give out there, and I'm sure that Bradley saw the move, and he's going to be a little bit more defensive here as we come to 8 to go.
Well, you definitely have to be respectful of other drivers on the racetrack. As I don't know who that was there, but one driver definitely overcooked the corner there, be able to get back on track. I believe that might have been Dittmer that we saw going off track there for a little bit, able to hang on to the third position, and Lothian is starting to close that gap there with Bradley in the 9 machine. And this is going to be a long stint on these tires for these drivers, about 15 laps, the longest that we've gone on a set of tires so far this evening. So handling is definitely going to come into play. And Lothian right now is side by side with Bradley looking for the race lead. And we see how good Lothian is, especially on more worn tires. Oh, they get together there over the Whataburger logo. Bradley there forces him wide, but they stay side by side going into the final corner here, back to the start finish line. And this is just good old fashioned road racing between these two drivers.
Well, I mean, this is the race that we wanted. We wanted to see all 4 of these drivers kind of get up here and intermingle with each other. It's allowed Wade to make a couple mistakes, and he come back in here. It allowed Dittmer to make a couple mistakes. He's back in here. Bradley actually overcooked one. Overcooked it on the entrance and the exit. He's going to have Dittmer all over his back bumper. Lothian gets the pass. They're catching lap traffic. That's still up here in the distance too. There is a whole lot that's going on here in the final 8.
Yeah, and 8 laps to go, and we kind of mentioned that 2 minutes at 20 seconds for each lap. So still about 20-25 minutes left in this race. So this battle is going to continue to go on for quite some time. You might look up there as a driver and be like, okay, 8 more laps, only 8 more laps. That's a lot of laps here at COTA. That's a lot of turns too.
Yeah, I don't normally hold my tongue. It's normally not something that I do, but I would be honest here. I like Blake Lothian's style of what he's doing. I think in this situation, you wouldn't necessarily want to do it. I get it. You want to win. And the win is something that's huge on the bucket list and the priority list here. I would be a little bit more cautious and more tiptoe-ish up here racing with the playoff drivers, because they'll have less patience than most would. Because especially if you're Bradley or Dittmer or Wade or somebody, you have nothing to lose. I mean, you know you're going to finish here if you get to the back bumper of him and maybe push him around a little bit. He's been very aggressive in this stage, in which I like aggression. I think aggression's fine in the right setting. In the right setting that you can do. You've already taken one. Try not to take another. You know, leaning on them is good, but just full on leaning on them to move them out of the way gets a little monotonous after a while.
No, and nobody appreciates that, obviously, and we've talked about it all night long. The difference between driving as a playoff driver and a non-playoff driver in the race, and the give and take that has to go on between each driver. But right now, if you're Lothian and you have a couple car length advantage over the rest of the drivers behind you in the pack, you don't necessarily have to worry about that, because, well, they can't get to you to touch you, so you don't have to worry about getting roughed up, Terry.
Well, yeah, but I mean, I would be perfectly real with you. Right here, the smooth that you see of the 29 of Bradley, he's not the kind of driver that's just going to wipe you out. But if you think about it, well, you kind of got ran off the racetrack for a little bit over there with the Whataburger side in the final couple of corners. Well, what's to say he's coming through these S's right here and you know, I caught the back end of you and I shot you through there and gave you a stop and go penalty and takes you out of position to win it. That's kind of the move that you would see. See, there it is. There's the contact. You start to see the repercussions for your actions. You see there, kind of cut the 29 off a little bit. You're going to piss people off, and you have to take that eventually. Is they're going to start getting pissed off, and then they're going to piss you off, and you're going to continue to get that match that's going to go back and forth, especially in a heavy braking corner. You're going to get to one where the 29's not going to want to stop until he touches you, and whether that's 20-30 feet past the braking zone or he just misses the corner altogether, eventually it's going to get to that point where you just build the enemies up, and there's 20 turns to make your life miserable. And if you're Lothian, you're a man on your own island at this moment.
Well, I will say, with all those things being considered, Bradley still finds himself under pressure from Dittmer and Wade. So this is a whole battle here for about the second position between 3 cars with Lothian as your leader. And so I think that has to factor into Bradley's head a little bit as well. Lothian only really has to worry about driving solid lines at this point and controlling his race. But if you're Bradley, not only have to worry about chasing down Lothian, you got to worry about Dittmer and Wade behind you. So Not an envious position to be in if you're the 29 machine right now, working through the rest of these 7, make it 6 laps of this race when you get back to the stripe. But you put yourself in a position where you at least can make a move for the win of this race. And you mentioned these drivers maybe being a little bit upset by the way that Lothian has treated them. At the same time, all these playoff drivers are going to be aggressive, as now Bradley is diving to pit road here. And that's something that maybe I thought about. I don't think there's going to be fuel for the rest of this race. So I think these drivers are coming in for fuel. Interesting to see if anybody will take tires this time around, though, Terry.
I think that's going to be a strong point. I would imagine that they would. The lap times have fell off by about 3 seconds. So tires should be the call. You should see 4 tires, and you don't want to fill it up. I wouldn't necessarily do that. You're going to change the balance a tad bit, but other than that, I mean, kind of take the least amount of fuel that you can. You see right here, that's Keith Haney. He actually took fuel only. Ted Wade was on pit road for about 9 seconds. Keith Bradley was on pit road for about 11 seconds. So there's a lot that's about to just come down here as everybody starts to make their pit stops, the final pit stops of this race. And now we'll see if the undercut worked, because they're going to have to go out here and put qualifying laps down.
Yeah, really, this puts Dittmer and Lothian kind of on an island, and you see the delta there going back to third place about 23 seconds. So what do you do if you're one of these drivers that are out in front of these drivers that have pit so far? Because at this point, Keith Haney in the 78 is your net race leader once these stops cycle out, and you're looking at the 2 drivers here, Lothian and Dittmer, that have not pit yet. I think you probably have to come this time, Terry. I'm not sure how long either of these drivers can stretch their fuel tanks, but you really got to come in and get the stop, I think, done as soon as you possibly can.
I would imagine that it would be this lap. Keith Haney with a good bit of strategy. You see Lothian locks it up there. I don't expect to see Haney actually hold that spot for very long, as Bradley is he's putting a ton of pressure here on him. He kind of fell back a little bit, as didn't want to get in any trouble, as the 29 is now working his way up here trying to catch that 78 machine. But I would pit this time. You have a pretty decent battle that's shaping up for this race lead. If Dittmer and Lothian both come down at the same time, you get to just full on go at it, and you should cycle out right in front of these 3 drivers that just came down pit lane.
Yeah, that's another thing to consider as well. Do you take tires here, or do you just take fuel if you're one of these drivers out in front? And you have to know, and there goes Lothian the pit road, so he'll give up the race lead to Dittmer. Dittmer's going to go at least 1 more lap around here. So that right now will be Lothian the pit road, so that will give Dittmer the lead. Haney's still going to be your net race leader once things cycle out. And I will say I appreciate the move by the 78 camp to at least try to do something different, get yourself out in front of this race. I think with 5 laps to go, I think you're right. I don't think he's going to be able to hold off the 2 teammates there, the over-the-top design teammates, but a good strategy move nonetheless. Probably at least solidifies you a top 5 finish here.
Yeah, I mean, you have to do something. You can't just sit there and hope that everything works for you. Lothian actually came off. Oh no, Bradley goes around. Lothian came out ahead of them, so that's kind of massive. He took, believe he took fuel only as well. It was a 5.85 second pit stop, and the only guy that I showed taking tires was Keith Bradley, and around he went. So he kind of dropped that one back a little bit, and now you're starting to see Haney and Wade and Lothian. And now it's time to catch Dittmer when he comes down pit lane.
Yeah, and you mentioned it. It looked like at that point there, Haney actually let Bradley go. And yeah, you mentioned it. Bradley just kind of locked up the tires. Maybe he wasn't expecting the position to come as easily as it did, and then he just locked it up and spun around there. And Dittmer still staying out there. He is currently your race leader, but Lothian, once Dittmer heads to pit road, I think the gap that Lothian has was about 21 seconds when he went to pit road. So I think if Lothian stays where he's at in relation to Dittmer, Dittmer is going to end up somewhere around 5th to 4th place, Terry. So I really think Dittmer should have went that last time when Lothian did. He could be finding himself battling for the lead right now if that was the case.
Math is never my strong suit. I'll never claim to be a mathematician. I don't even claim to be a good commentator. But if you're Dittmer, he should have came in a lap before. You're right. But if he comes in this time, you see he's kind of gained a little bit. The tires are starting to show their age. You think about this. If Lothian pushed harder than anybody in the field behind him. He pushed harder than Wade. He pushed harder than Haney. So them not taking tires made sense. For Lothian at the moment, well, you know, he kind of pushed a ton. He was aggressive in the braking zones. He was aggressive on exit. He was loose majority of the racetrack. Well, now you kind of got to reap what you sow, because you got Haney, you got Wade behind you, and then if you look in the distance back there, there's Bradley. If anything checks up between the three of them, you'll see it. But Dittmer stayed out even more, so maybe the fuel strategy could work out here, and we could see old Tyler Dittmer pull one out on the fuel one.
Well, that's what I was just thinking as well, because I said if he's going to stay out this time by, I mean, at this point, in for a penny, in for a pound, you might as well just try to go all the way to the end and win this race that way. Now, how much can you give up to Lothian, Haney, and Wade bearing down on you, though? I mean, this gap is 17 seconds right now, but that gap is definitely going to fall. And how long can Dittmer stay out here and really try to just stay? Because you mentioned it, the tires are already falling off. The last time around, I'm trying to find a lap time. Ted Wade ran a 2:20 to Tyler Dittmer's 2:23. So 3 seconds. Really, it puts you right there at the end if you're Dittmer and you're staying out.
Well, I mean, if you think about it, his lap times have fallen here. It is 2:23 is what we're looking at. So, I mean, fuel burn, as the tires start to wear, you burn less fuel because you're going slower here. Potentially sitting out here just clutching it. You got a lot of hills that are down in the elevation changes here to really play with the numbers on the fuel mileage. Maybe he was the only one who took a full load of fuel on that last pit stop and coasted and shut the truck off under the caution laps, or maybe shut the truck off during the stage 2 caution break when we had that 5-lap period in it. This is going to be fun. Strategy is always one of my favorite things, even though I stink at math.
It's going to be 3 laps to go for Dittmer when he gets to the stripe. So I guess we're going to find out if that 34 camp was able to save enough fuel. Everybody else so far has pit this last time around, with the exception, everybody behind him has pit, going to 8th place, which is Kyle Hess. And then Brady LaBeouf, Devin Painter, Michael McKinnon, Raul Meza, Brandon Bullock, Cody Knott, Dana Shepard, Jose Luis Rivera, Huck Wigington, Jason Morales. Those are all the drivers so far that are staying out with Dittmer. So maybe there's a little bit of split on fuel mileage. Maybe people have different numbers, different ways they could make it all the way to the end here. Because, yeah, a lot of drivers have been staying out so far.
Well, Dittmer also kind of fell off a little bit there in that run. Maybe he was saving a tad bit more than what the rest of the field was doing. You saw Wade come down, and he was saving quite a bit. I mean, you could see he fell down the leaderboard, wasn't charging the truck, wasn't overdriving it, wasn't trying to make any bold, aggressive moves. But this will be interesting if he can go all the way from here. Granted, it's only 18 laps, and only 16 of them are under the green flag condition. So if he was able, in the 2-to-1 ratio from green lap to caution lap, if he was able to shut that truck off, maybe he's got a button box, maybe he was able to start and shut the truck off, save a little bit of fuel, coast down these straights in the downhill portions and around the curves. He might pull a win out here.
I believe that's Jason Morales there, the one truck you see. Actually, Huck Wigington, the one truck you see to the outside now, giving way to the rest of these drivers. And you can see that's kind of the difference in speed between the drivers that have stayed out and the drivers that do have that fresh Goodyear rubber on their wheels. And Tyler Dittmer last time 223 to Ted Wade's 221. I would say Haney and Lothian are running about the same. As the inside dive here by Haney. Lothian's going to be just as aggressive on the outside to regain the position. And that was a move there by Haney, to say the least. And Lothian said, okay, anything you can do, I can do better. And now they're beating and banging again. Almost goes around, goes the 43. Ted Wade's trying to get to the inside of all of this action right now. He's going to get the spot on Haney, now looking for the spot on Lothian. A little bit of a bump there. Oh, and look at that. Around goes Haney on the bumper of Keith Bradley there. Everybody else kind of scrambling to avoid right now. He'll lose about 3 positions. And now it's a battle with Ted Wade and Blake Lothian here for second place.
And that all started with Haney and Lothian making contact, and then it allowed Bradley to come in here. He got a piece of that off the exit here. Did you see Ted Wade? He makes the pass on Lothian as they come into the final corner. This has been really aggressive for P2. Even more allowing the leader. I mean, he's committed to staying out. It's 2 to go. He's not coming down.
No, he's not coming down. So this could possibly be the battle for the win right here as well. If Dittmer happens to run out of fuel, we don't know what the strategy is or the situation is for the 34 right now. So this could possibly be a battle for the win that we're watching right now, Terry. And Wade able to make good use of those fresh tires, and then now is kind of checking out on Lothian. But Lothian's at least going to try to hang on to that 3rd position and not let Keith Bradley by.
Well, Bradley's going to have a slowdown. He just completely cut that corner in the S's there. But maybe that's why it got so aggressive. Maybe they're all thinking the same thing we are. Maybe Tyler Dittmer's not going to make it on fuel, and that this strategy that he's got, because he's coasting. I mean, he's slow. You can see it. He's coasting down the hill. He's at a top and just now. He's about 20 mile an hour slower than the field. He's just got up to 140 for the first time on this area. You should be upwards more of that, and he's on the brake early. He's on the clutch, actually. He's already clutching from there all the way into the corner. He's down to 30 miles an hour. Then he's off the clutch, back on the gas. So you're going to see a little bit more aggression here out of these 2 behind him as he's still clutching. I mean, he's down to 40 mile an hour, 60 mile an hour, swinging it back left and right. He might just do this.
He does have 12 seconds to play with here. It's going to be 2 laps to go. And last time by, he ran a 2-minute, 25-second lap. And Ted Wade ran about a similar lap time too. So if he can hang on to this gap he has right now, and you mentioned it, the speed difference, he's kind of picking it up a little bit now, just maybe doing a dance with the delta that he's watching right now. Maybe he has a spotter letting him know how far behind Ted Wade is, but Dittmer maybe he's making the stretch on the fuel strategy here. When he gets to the flag, it'll be 1 to go here, so we'll see what happens.
I mean, he's going to have to hope. He's going to have to be clutching it here. He's going to have to be out of the gas very early. He's already clutching it up the hill. He'll come around, do the sweep. You don't want to touch the brakes in this situation. You want the truck to slow down on its own. And I know that sounds crazy, but the more you use the brakes, the more you have to use the gas to get it back up to speed to hit the clutch. So clutch early. You know what your points are. You kind of understand. You can touch the brakes a little, but you don't want to be hard on them. Just back it down. You have 12 seconds to play with. Just take all of it. I mean, you only need a foot to win. That's all you need is a foot. And I would use all 12 seconds right at this moment to sit here and preserve this win, because he's got a long way to go.
Yeah, and right now it doesn't seem like he's slowing down too much. This seems to be about race pacers as fast as you can with 17 lap tires. So it may be possible now that Tyler Dittmer knows that he can make it, or just basically is throwing all wind into the sails and letting the dice roll where they may here. But he only has about 7 more turns to get through here to make his way to butt kicker victory lane here at Virtual Circuit Americas. You can see very far in the distance there, Ted Wade just came over the crest of the hill. But it's still about an 11-second gap, Terry. So he has enough time right now to play with, I think, to be able to hang on to it. But is there enough fuel left in the tank?
That's the magic question. I mean, he's got 9 seconds. He's backed it down quite a bit. I mean, you see the delta kind of working up and down. It would be impressive if he was the only one on this field that thought of the fuel strategy. This is smart. Lot punches this ticket to the championship or to the round of 8.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what any one of these playoff drivers were trying to do that doesn't have the name of Ted Wade. And so far, 34, Tyler Dittmer is able to kind of play the strategy all night long. You remember at one point he spun around here and had to gather it, come all the way back from that spin, work the fuel strategy. And now as he comes around the final corner, I do think he has enough fuel. You see, he is pretty slow right now, but he is starting to accelerate again. Tyler Dittmer is going to be your winner at Virtual Circuit of the Americas, and he's going to lock himself into the round of 8 here in the NASRA Triple M Pulling Truck Series.
That's impressive. It was very, very impressive. I wonder if he has enough fuel to do a burnout potentially. That was beyond impressive. As you see right here, Abbott held off. He actually got around Bradley back there for the 4th place position. This was an exciting race. I wasn't expecting this.
Yeah, and I think Abbott there might have been running out of fuel right at the end because he was slowing down there too. Bradley almost was able to get him there at the line, but Bradley will come across in 5th. The rest of the field here is still finishing up from about 8th position on back, still waiting to cross the finish line here. There's a little bit of a battle going on here with Raul Meza and Newbert. This is a battle for about 14th position. About 6 more turns left for these drivers, and you see Meza goes way wide there, able to give the spot away to Newbert and McKinnon. McKinnon, a playoff driver, so that's an important spot there. Anything you can get at this point, if you finish outside the top 10, is going to be really important going into Kansas.
Yeah, you're going to have to make it up. As we'll go on here, the 4 still holding on to the spot, holding on to 13th. Looks like he's going to hold this position and hold serve where he's riding. He comes here. The last set of corners, he'll hold on here as got loose there behind him.
Yeah, that was a little bit of a moment for McKinnon there, and you definitely want to finish this race if you're one of these playoff drivers, no matter how far in the field you are. That's McKinnon going to come across in 16th position now, going to lose a few spots as he comes across the line. Actually 14th position. It was just an error on timing and scoring here, and we'll get to your full race results in just a minute. We're just waiting for the rest of the field to finish up here at Circuit of the Americas. And here are your full race results. Of course, Tyler Dittmer, your winner. Ted Wade in the 2 machine comes across second. Blake Lothian in the 43 and 3rd. Brian Abbott and Keith Bradley round out your top 5. Keith Haney, your first driver outside the top 5. Jacob Klinker, 7th. 8th, Brady LaBeouf. 9th, Stephen Thomas. And rounding out the top 10, Terry, is Devin Painter.
We can go back here to 11th. We're going to look at Chris Cinnamon, Justin Lumpkin, Adam Newbert, Michael McKinnon had an issue early, rebounded up here. Raul Meza, Dana Shepard, Cody Knott, Taylor Peacock, and then your 1 lap down machines, Kyle Hess and Jose Luis Rivera.
And going back from there, Huck Wiggy's into the 00. Also 1 lap down, Jason Morales will join him in the 6 machine in 22nd position. Brandon Bullock comes across 4 laps down with Derek Kilgore also coming across 4 laps down at 24th. Robert Richards 9 laps down, Joey Doucette 35 laps down, Zach Hartwick 37 laps down, and then TJ Moore race control in the 01 machine. So they did not race with us here tonight. So we go from here, Circuit of the Americas. Next week we go to Kansas, but we're standing by with our winner right now here from Circuit of the Americas, Tyler Dittmer. And Tyler, got to ask right off the bat, we didn't know up here in the booth what the fuel looked like for you guys. Was that a fuel mileage stretch for you, or did you kind of have that? Did you have something that some of the other drivers maybe didn't have?
No, that was fuel mileage all day. I finished the race with half a gallon, and with about 5 to go, I was at 4.5 laps to the good. So, I mean, I probably didn't touch. I think I touched second gear twice the lap. Never touched first, and just kind of ran third through most of the rhythm sections and just coasted and rolled with it, and it paid off. And man, it feels good to get the win after how bad last week went.
Well, yeah, this locks you into the next round of playoffs for sure, so you can breathe easy going into Kansas next week. Look ahead, though, to the next round. You got Talladega and Bristol. Any of those tracks stand out to you? One is one that you can get it done at, or any of those like you just think that maybe you have to survive to get to the next round?
It's going to take survival. I mean, I've won first stages in every super speedway race I've actually run this year in the league. I missed one of them, but I haven't been able to finish either of the super speedway races, which is very frustrating. So if I can take those stage 1 wins and turn them into race wins, that'd be huge. But I love short track racing. I used to be really bad at it. Now I'm probably one of the better drivers in the league at short track racing. So just have to kind of bring that mentality that we had at like Hickory and Martinsville, where we got top 3, top 5s, and, you know, go and try to get a win there too.
Well, good enough effort for you for first place tonight. Anybody want to shout out who helps you get it done out here on the racetrack?
Yeah, first I want to thank NASRA, you guys for putting us on. Obviously, Triple M Pulling Trucks, huge set sponsors. Then I want to thank my team, North Central Racing Club. Jacob Klinkar had a really fast truck, and he couldn't take a couple of the lines, and kind of learned some things from him and from what I've done myself. And then I want to thank Luke's Hobbies, Lizardworks Racing, Hoop Ties Garage, and yeah, just everyone in the booth. You guys, thanks for putting us on, and I'm just glad to get the win. And that was a tough race for me. I'm not a big road course guy, but you know what? Get it when you can.
Well, we appreciate you taking some time to come and talk to us here, Tyler. Enjoy the week off, so to speak, at Kansas, and good luck the rest of the way.
Thanks, guys.
And that was your winner from Circuit of the Americas tonight, Tyler Dittmer. We caught up with our second place finisher, Ted Wade, and he's standing right now with Terry Radford.
Ted Wade, you all in the first part of this race thought you had it locked up. What happened in stage 3 that made you fall back a little bit, and what a rebound to second?
I was just trying to be conservative. I knew those guys were going to push real hard, and I pushed hard those first 2 stages, burnt the rear tires up, and it was so hard to drive. I just wanted to lay back and just try to maintain pace, not push hard, try to save fuel, but it didn't look like I was going to make it on fuel. My fuel gauge was all over the place on estimation, so I didn't want to chance it, and I went ahead and pulled in, took about a 2-gallon, 3-gallon of gas, and tried to get back up there.
Well, you ended up coming in second. You were already locked in. I kind of understood you were just out here to have fun. Talk about the racing out there, because we saw a lot of not giving and taking. You saw a lot of pushing and beating around. That you like that style? You like that style, or I saw you try to give a little bit of it too.
I wasn't trying to intentionally push anybody off the track or hit them or anything. It's real tight, and there's not a whole lot of spots to pass at. So if you get a shot underneath somebody, you just got to try to take it and then push the issue.
With Kansas next week, can we throw bets down on you to win it?
It might be a tough one, but yeah, you always got to throw me into the ballpark there with it.
I like it. Well, I feel like that's my pick to win. I think those sponsors on the side of that truck.
Yeah, man, I'd like to give a shout out to Over the Top Designs, Dan's Top Notch Heating and Cooling, John Hedrick. He's a big help with all this, putting all this together for me. Bruzy Racewear, NASRA, Triple M Pulling, all my teammates over at Up Front Motorsports. Without all them guys, we can't get her done every week.
Yeah, I reached out to those Abruzzi guys. Might have them do some shirts for me here this week. So hopefully, I'll tell them you sent me.
There you go. Just let them know I sent you on over.
Appreciate that, Ted. Congratulations on P2.
Thanks, guys. Have a good one.
All righty, and that's P2 finishers Ted Wave. You got Blake Lothian back there, the Ross Chastain of COTA.
I don't want to necessarily say that, but you did have a little bit of a different mentality coming into this race, Blake, as a non-playoff driver, and you were one to fight up there for the lead. It looked like for the better parts of this race, it looks like you were the car to beat. What do you need there at the end just to get you the few little extra couple of positions and end up at victory lane?
Well, it turned out to be a few miler race at the end of it, so definitely needed a little bit of fuel save, and definitely didn't save any fuel in that final stage. Just decided to go all out, just saw what we had, and then ended up burning up the tires at the end of it. But definitely had a really good pit stop. Millie's catering number 43 truck, really, really fast all night long. Ruffled some feathers, but definitely was a really quick truck all night.
Yeah, and talk a little bit about that strategy play earlier in the race to get you up towards the front of the field. I think it was 24 positions you gained through the course of the night. So just talk a little bit about that and what you did to work your way up through the field.
Oh, yeah, we started about shotgun on the field, I believe, made up about 13, 14 spots in the first lap. So, I mean, we really had a really great truck. I was able to navigate the traffic pretty well. So, I mean, definitely felt like we had a really, really, really good truck.
Well, looking for the next week at Kansas, Blake. It seems like you're kind of enjoying this dark horse non-playoff role, getting up there and mixing it up. What are you looking forward to at Kansas and then just the rest of the season in general?
I'm hoping to make as many races as possible. I'm not 100% sure if I can make Kansas yet. I hope I can. But I definitely love the track. I love that it's a mile and a half. Love mile and a half. Reminds me of racing four-stroke karts. That's how I started off my career. So I really, really do love that type of momentum-based racing. And obviously Kansas, a lot of lanes that you can use around that racetrack. So I'm looking forward to seeing how the track evolves throughout the race.
Well, we're looking forward to seeing you there, hopefully, too, as well in 1 week's time. Anybody you want to shout out, Blake, who gets it done for you?
Oh, of course, Stick With It Motorsports, Jeffrey Sickles. I mean, without him, I'm not sure what I'd be doing right now. Millie's Restaurant Catering. Obviously, we have the breast cancer awareness truck on there. Have to give a huge shout out to my family, obviously, for all they do for my real life career, and then all the real life partners as well that go into the real life racing.
Well, we appreciate you taking some time to come talk to us in the booth, Blake. Go and celebrate your third place finish.
Thank you. I already got the bottle of champagne. I'm kidding.
There you go. That was Blake Lothian. He finished third tonight here from Circuit of the Americas here on Racecraft TV. And Terry, I think that's kind of what we expected out of Circuit of the Americas as far as road racing goes. A lot of differing strategies. I will say, though, I didn't expect the fuel mileage win to be what got it done at the end of the night.
Yeah, I mean, it's road racing. Fuel mileage kind of comes into the effect, but I didn't expect once I saw everybody else come down that Tyler Dittmer would be the one to hold it out there and save a little bit more than the rest. But this is a fun race. I mean, from start to finish. So a lot of beating and banging, a lot of close quarters racing. It was not just a checkup or a pull off from somebody. This was fun.
Well, on behalf of all of us here at Racecraft TV, we just want to congratulate Tyler Dittmer again on his win here from the virtual Circuit of the Americas. And on behalf of myself and Terry Radford, Zach Johnson in the booth, Joshua Lee, Josh Edmondson, Trevor Teal, and everybody who helps us get everything done here at Racecraft TV. And we hope that you join us in 1 week's time from Kansas. Have a good evening.